Hello and welcome to our math lesson for today. Please make sure you have the notes paper for today, and at the top of the notes paper there is a section for the LOT with 1, 2, and 3 in there. So please go ahead and try this, and when you are ready, resume the video to check your answers. Alright, welcome back. Hopefully you have tried the LOT and hopefully you remember some of this, feel a little bit confident about this. In the first one, number 1, which number is irrational? Well, I remember that rational numbers can be turned into fractions, so irrational numbers cannot. I know that numbers that repeat can be made into a fraction, so this last one I think is rational. I know that numbers that terminate or have an end are also rational because they can be put into fractions, so it looks like this first answer choice is my irrational number. I know it's irrational because the numbers appear with that dot 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 at the end, appear to go on and on without repeating, so there's not going to be a decimal equivalent for that. In number 2, which of the following are irrational again? Well, I do remember fractions are rational, so that means 2/3 is rational, so that is not going to be part of my answer, and that allows me to cross off C and D. I know that imperfect square roots or non-perfect square roots are irrational, so this needs to be in my answer. That is in both A and B. I next see the square root of 121. This is a perfect square, and so this is rational, so this cannot be part of my answer, so that allows me to cross off B, and I believe A is my answer, but I'm just going to verify. 4.5 is rational because it can be made into 4.5. Repeating decimals are rational, 2/9, and pi is irrational, so it looks like I am good to go here. And in the third one, place the decimal point on the number line for each of the following irrational numbers. I know the square root of 2 is between the square root of 1 and the square root of 4. So it's between 1 and 2. It is closer to the 1 than the 2, so I'm going to place it right about here, square root of 2. For the square root of 17, that is just a little bit above the square root of 16. I know the next one is 25, so that means it's between 4 and 5, but definitely closer to the 4 because of the values inside of the square root symbol. So I'm going to put it just above the 4, square root of 17. Okay, so hopefully you remember that just a little bit. Today we are going to look at order of operations. This should mostly be review. But we do want to just make sure we feel confident on this so that in the coming days we can add rational numbers, so fractions and decimals, into our order of operations. So today you will be able to evaluate multi-step order of operations problems. Have a video here for us. Nice little catchy way to remember order of operations.
Hi, you must be here to pick up my nephew. You killed it in the nursery.
Aunt Sally!
Yeah?
Can you please stop embarrassing me?
Just trying to be polite.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're gonna go on our date now,
Hey,
okay?
you not touching my hand. Be sure to put on his napkin here for the test to forget. And curfew's 9:30.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but she knows not how to do this simple math. All she did was laugh, but I listen when I'm in class. Cause it goes order of operations. Order of operations. Order of operations. Now you can be a math sensation. First do the work in the parentheses. It's easy, say it with a little emphasis. Now pick up your head, put your thinking cap on it. The next step, look at the exponent. The exponent, yeah, what's that teach? That's a little number floating to the right of the digit. Oh yeah, that's right. Now take it back to third grade. Just multiply. If you need to, you can also divide. All Aunt Sally did was just add and subtract. As a matter of fact, now y'all add and subtract. That's the last two steps. Woo! Now take a breath. It's easy, like ABC. But this is math, so we gon' say 1, 2, 3. From Mr. QUE. Now y'all all can be math sensations like me. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but she knows not how to do this simple math. All she did was laugh, but I listen when I'm in class. Cause it goes order of operations. Order of operations. Order of operations. Now you can be a math sensation. Be a math sensation just like me. If you like to count your money up just like me. Well, first you gotta do your work in the parenthesis. Next step is the exponent. Yeah. Multiply and divide then and subtract. Use the left or right rule when you're doing your math. Just do it like this and you're gonna pass. Now sing along with me while we do this math. It goes order of operations. Order of operations. Order of operations. Now you can be a math sensation. Order of operations. Order of operations. Order of operations. Now you can be a math sensation.
All right, so hopefully that catchy tune will help you remember our order of operations. Our order of operations, P is for parentheses, E is for exponents. Notice how the M and the D are beside each other. That is because when we are doing multiplication and division, neither one of them specifically comes first. We do multiplication and dividing from left to right. And the same with addition and subtraction. We work on them from left to right. We do not have to add first. We might have to subtract if that is further to the left. So multiplying and dividing from left to right, adding and subtracting from left to right. So let's take a look at some problems here. -9 plus 1 plus 7 minus 18 times -4. So I'm going to start off with any parentheses. I see parentheses right here, so I'm going to solve that first. 1 plus 7 is 8. And then I'm going to copy down the rest of my problem. And I think I am done with parentheses. I do see that there are still parentheses in my problem. However, that is just helping me separate numbers from each other, so there's nothing else to solve in parentheses. There are no exponents in this particular problem, so next is any multiplying or dividing. I do see over here on the right-hand side that I have some multiplication. -18 times -4. I know that 4 times 8 is 32. And 4 times 1 is 4 plus 3 is 7. Negative times a negative equals a positive. So this is going to be positive 72. And I'm going to copy down the rest of my problem. Done with multiplying and dividing, so now I add and subtract from left to right. So first, -9 plus 8, and that gives me -1. -1 plus 72, different signs, so I actually subtract, and my answer is positive 71. Let's take a look at another one here. Sorry about that. All right, again, first do the work in the parentheses. So 1 plus 4 is 5. And I do see already that I have an exponent when I get there. -6 minus, and then 10 minus 6 is 4. So solving all those things in the parentheses first. Done with parentheses, now I have exponents. So I need to do 5 squared. That is 5 times 5. That gives me 25. Copying down the rest of my problem. Done with exponents. In this particular problem, I actually do not see any multiplying or dividing, so I'm going to continue with adding and subtracting. Remember that for this step, I am working from left to right. It does not matter which comes first, adding or subtracting. I start on the left and move towards the right. So -3 plus 25. I do see its addition, but with different signs, I'm actually going to end up subtracting 25 minus 3, and that gives me 22. Minus 6 minus 4, so now I do 22 minus 6. That gives me 16, and 16 minus 4 gives me an answer of 12. Go ahead and pause the video, give this one a try, and when you feel confident or if you get stuck, go ahead and resume to see the answer. Alright, welcome back. Let's go ahead and check our answer here. So first, do any work in the parentheses. I see 3 minus 6. I notice that when I do 3 minus 6, the second number is bigger, so I'm going to end up with a negative answer. And that negative answer is -3, because 6 minus 3 is 3. I don't see any other things I can do inside parentheses, so now I'm going to move on to exponents. I have exponents over here on the right, 3 squared. So I'm going to solve that next. And 3 squared is 9. I don't see any more exponents, so now I'm going to work on multiplying and dividing, and this is very important to make sure we do this from left to right. So in this problem, I see multiplying right here with parentheses, the 2 parentheses -3, that is multiplication. However, there is division further to the left, so this comes first. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then I would have the 6 times -3, which gives me -18, because I know that a negative times a positive gives me a negative. Mr. Multiple Vision or Pizza Steve shows me that. 6 times -3 is -18, plus 9 minus 1. I'm done with multiplying and dividing. -18 plus 9, I have different signs, so I'm actually going to subtract and end up with -9. And then minus 1, these are the same sign, -9, -1, so I'm going to add, and my answer to this one is -10. Let's take a quick look at a couple more here. Now in a problem like this, I notice that I have division, I have multiplication here, I have adding here. So typically my mind would say first do the multiplying and dividing. However, in a problem like this, when we have a fraction to show division, we want to act as if the entire top, and if there were anything to do on the bottom, in this one there's not, but if there were to be, we would want to do solve the entire top or simplify the entire top, simplify the entire bottom, and then do the division at the end. So we're going to act as if there are grouping symbols around the numerator and grouping symbols around the denominator. So when I look at that numerator, I see multiplication and adding. So the multiplication is going to come first. -3 times +3 is -9. -9 plus 5, these are different signs, so I am going to subtract. 9 minus 5 is 4. And the 9 is bigger, so I'm going to use the sign of the bigger one, that is negative. So my numerator simplifies to -4. In my denominator, there was nothing to simplify, so I'm going to simply copy that down. And now I have -4 divided by -2. I know that 4 divided by 2 is 2. And I know once again, because of Pizza Steve or Mr. Multiple Vision, negative divided by a negative gives me a positive answer. So my answer to this is +2. Let's take a look at one more problem. Again, I have a fraction, so I'm going to be thinking about simplifying the top simplifying the bottom, and then dividing. So as I look at the top, I see parentheses, so I'm going to start there. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Copying down the rest. Then I don't have anything else to simplify in the parentheses, so I'm going to do any multiplication. 4 times 5 is 20. And now when I look at this, I have 20 minus negative 6. I can either think about keep, change, change, or I can remember that when I have two negatives side by side, they come together to form a positive. So this is actually 20 plus 6, which is 26. And now that I've simplified the top, I am going to simply bring down my denominator since there's nothing to simplify there. And now I have 26 divided by negative 2. I already am thinking about Pizza Steve or Mr. Multiple Vision. I have a negative and a positive, so I already know that my answer should be negative. And so now I need to do the division. 26 divided by 2. 2 goes into 2 one time. Subtract, and that leaves me with nothing. 2 into 6 is 3 times. So this divided nice and neat for me, and my answer, because I knew it was negative, is negative 13. Alright, so today we were reviewing order of operations. We did have some integer rules in there, so hopefully you remember those from last week. Please make sure you get the practice page from your teacher and get that completed as much as you can before the end of class. If you have any questions, please refer back to your notes and take a look at what step you're on and where you should be going to move forward.